G'day mate, welcome to Vlogmas Day 15. That g'day goes out to username Steve Allighieri, or I don't know how you pronounce it, but you know who you are. I will not say that again because it is not natural to me, but you asked, and there it is. Alright, so this video actually I'm going to answer Paper Vampire's question. What does Tumblr really have that Instagram or Facebook or Flickr or whatever doesn't have besides the not safe for work content tolerance it is getting rid of? Alright, you haven't really thought about this very much, have you? So, first thing I'm going to say is Instagram and Flickr, they're just like basically image sharing websites. They don't really compare. So, let's just talk about Facebook and Tumblr, because I'm using both at the moment and I'm starting to get a feel of how they're different. But there are also some really obvious differences. I guess I'll talk about how I use it first, and then I've also got a couple of things I've dug up on the internet. I'll post them in the description so you can have a look. They miss a few points, I think, but there are actually quite some significant differences between Facebook and Tumblr. I think, though, the first thing I'll say is that even if there is overlap between social media platforms, I think that's a good thing because you don't want anyone really to have a monopoly. Competition is healthy, and when we have options, these big companies have to at least put on the illusion of doing things right and for us. Even if like their ultimate goal is making money, they have to make sure they keep people on their platform, because I mean, to some extent we're customers, but we are also the product, and the difference about us as products is we can fuck off to other platforms if we decide Facebook or Tumblr aren't doing things right. So that's the same goes with the not safe for work content. If you're upset about the adult content ban, you can just fuck off to somewhere else. That's capitalism. That's what you do. Supply and demand. You know, if they're not providing what you want, go to an alternative. That's a good thing about having all these different platforms. Yeah. So, and then also, like, if you look at something like MySpace, right? MySpace didn't keep up with the times, and now they have this terrible other interface that they're trying to be more music, but it looks terrible. I don't know. MySpace has died because they didn't keep up with what people want and how the internet was changing, and so if any of these other platforms don't keep up and there are alternatives, we can just fuck off. Like, competition is good. So, you know, that's the one thing. But, no. Facebook and Tumblr are quite different. For me personally, Facebook, I have real-life connections. I've tried to keep it mostly separate from people I don't know in real life, but then I got into music, and with music, you kind of have to network with people. In Sydney, the scene's kind of small, but yeah, you want to try and get opportunities. So you've got to connect with other bands, connect with venues, you've got to be able to promote your events, and like most of the people I know in real life are on Facebook, and it's just an easy way to connect with them as an actual social network. These days though, I've got 500 friends, I don't know who most of them are. If someone is from Sydney, New South Wales, and I can tell that they're either a music fan or they are a musician or someone connected to music, generally I'll accept as long as they don't have anything really awful on their profile. I have seen some dumb shit that people have set to public on their profiles and just been like, I'm not accepting you as a friend, you seem like trouble. So, yeah. My Facebook is a little bit of a mess, but I primarily use it for networking. I also put out a lot of my thoughts, but they're thoughts that I don't necessarily want like 100% public. I'm okay with the people sort of roughly a little bit around me knowing some of it. It's been really good communicating with my parents, actually, because like for years I am a weirdo, I am a nut job, I have all kinds of crazy shit going on in my head. I don't post all of it, but particularly when I was going through that 2-year, 3-year depression, I posted a lot of my thoughts, and I think it really helped my parents sort of understand what's going on inside my head, and, you know, support from friends and all that to help me get through that time, and this is all about real people. Whereas Tumblr, I had a friend suggest I join Tumblr. I think other people have suggested Tumblr in the past, because on Facebook I also have, as well as my personal profile, I have my public page, Destroy America. You can pronounce it however you want, it's fine. But yeah, I have that public page, but I don't use it a lot. Pages on Facebook, at some point they decided they wanted to make money off advertising, and they completely nerfed your reach on that. So, you know, you can try, but if you want to publicize something, they kind of want your money, and it's a bit of a pain in the ass to try and promote things organically. You know, if you try and post your shit into groups and whatever, just because it's a page, and they have actually categorized my stuff as a business page, and I'm like, I'm not a business, I'm not making money from this. You know, it's just, no, fuck off, Facebook, stop deciding for me what my shit is. So that page, I try and post like the most important stuff, or, you know, if I want it on Facebook but not necessarily on my personal profile, I'll post it on that public page, but it doesn't reach many people, and it feels a little bit pointless. So someone actually suggested to me, oh, hey, maybe you should use Tumblr to get more of a following, and I was like, oh, is that what Tumblr is? So I signed up, and that's not really how Tumblr works. If you want to get a huge following on Tumblr, the process is a pain. Apparently you have to, like, follow a gazillion people and hope that they follow you back. And I think that might be how I got some of my first followers, because I tried that. But after a while, you're looking at your equivalent of the news feed, and things are shooting up way too fast, and you're just like, yeah, no. So I unfollowed pretty much everyone except a few people, couple people that I know. Maybe that's all I followed. I don't even remember. I don't look at that homepage on the Tumblr. But what I find it really useful for, I did start trying to craft that sort of image that I could possibly promote, but after a while, like, I was like, yeah, this isn't going anywhere, fuck it. So I didn't post for that much for a bit, but now I'm posting like all my Vlogmas vlogs, and then occasionally I'll stumble on something that I feel like I want to save or share, but is going to cause me problems on Facebook, or maybe I've already posted too much stuff on Facebook for that day. In the past, like, if I came across a news article and I'd already posted too much on my Facebook and didn't feel like it really fit, I would post it on Twitter, but Twitter's kind of shit, and you can only have a certain number of words, and I like to write a lot, so you post something on Twitter, but you can't really give any context to it, and that's just frustrating. I know they expanded the word limit, but it's still shit. And Twitter has some dodgy policies I'm now discovering as well. So I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to keep going with Twitter. I still have my account, but So I've taken to doing that on Tumblr instead. So posting articles and videos and stuff. And one of the things it's really good for is hardly anyone from Facebook can be bothered to follow me on Tumblr, which means I don't have to be careful about what I say to the same extent. Like on Facebook, I posted, and I think it was an article discussing why the word TERF, which is this, it's supposed to stand for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminism. I shared an article about why that word, just like stop using it. It's not like hardly anyone legit thinks of themselves as that, and it's just being used as this insult. I have been called a TERF even though I'm not a radical feminist. I barely even count as a feminist. I mean, if I do, it would be second wave, which isn't enough for feminists today. So yeah, like, you're using that word against me for the smallest little crime of trying to help the way that you didn't want me to help, or some shit like that, and suddenly I am a radical feminist. Okay, whatever the fuck you want. But I posted an article basically talking about that kind of thing, and how it is used in an abusive way. Some of these extremist activists will be like, you're a TERF, like, kill all TERFs, and blah, 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 and whatever. It is used just to insult and belittle people in a lot of cases. Even radical feminists don't necessarily exclude trans people. They're just critical of the narrative that extremist trans activism is pushing at the moment, okay? So I shared, like, this, that's the long story short. I shared it on my Facebook, and most people are like, yeah, okay, I get this. But there's always that one person, and so I had this acquaintance who actually lives in another state. I've never met her, but, you know, she's got a Facebook page, which is actually kind of cool. It's, But yeah, she has a kid who happens to be trans, and so she's quite sensitive about that kind of stuff, and completely missed the point of what I was saying, got all upset about seeing this anti-trans kind of thing, and I'm like, it's not anti-trans, it's anti-TERF being used as a word, but, you know, it's just interesting that you have to use trans people's pronouns and all that kind of stuff, and you have to ask all this stuff, but when it comes to the other side of things, and someone says, hey, I'd rather you didn't call me a TERF, they're like, nah, I'm gonna call you a TERF anyway. This, like, it's kind of a hypocritical thing. I mean, you can use the word TERF if you want, but realize that you were kind of promoting a bit of hypocrisy. Anyway, so that conversation went a little bit long. She didn't end up hating me, which was good, because I think most of the people that I keep on Facebook are not completely crazy. Just occasionally they have ideas that maybe have been promoted to them in a way that they think makes sense, but when you look into it doesn't, or maybe it's just like, you know, difference of beliefs, I don't know, but we got through that and we're still friends on Facebook and still interact for the original reason that we connected, but it did cause a little bit of trouble, and you know, like, I don't want to be upsetting people just because they have different beliefs. I've sort of grown out of that phase. You know, like, I did go through that phase of being a raging atheist, like, you Christians are all fucking stupid kind of thing, and you know, I did go through a phase of poking at vegans, all that, but these days I'm a bit like, you know what, I just can't be bothered with the drama. So that kind of, like, after that event, I was kind of like, I have all these opinions about how extremist trans activism has gotten completely out of control, but I don't know where to share it, if Facebook's going to cause me problems. I mean, these people who don't like what I say could easily just unfollow me, hide my comments, whatever, put me on a restricted list, or like, worst comes to worst, unfriend me, block me. I don't care, because I don't even know most of you people, but you still have to go through the drama of all that. And because none of these people follow me on Tumblr, I'm just like, you know what, fuck it, I'll post it on Tumblr. Although the funny side effect of that is I did post a few of my more conservative right-wing views, because most of my friends, I mean, music and art and all that tends to be a bit more left-leaning, so most of my friends on those networks tend to be left-leaning, whereas my family tends to be a little bit more right-leaning, but anyway. Yeah, no, on Tumblr, over the last few days, I've had a whole bunch of conservative, right-wing, Trump-supporting accounts follow me, and it's been interesting. I'm just sort of like, ooh, this is unexpected. They haven't reblogged anything or liked anything. But anyway, so I am rambling and taking forever to get to the point. But basically, I can share just about anything on Tumblr, and the people who are actually in my life don't give a shit, but I still get to express stuff that's in my head, and so far haven't had too much trouble. I am aware of the fact that Tumblr has this hypersensitive corner of it, but they haven't found me yet, and when they do find me, I'm just going to ignore them, because you know, I don't even know who they are. But that brings me to another thing, like, okay, so the way I use Facebook and Tumblr is Facebook is for networking with real people who I might actually meet or have met, and people who I know, organizing events, promoting my stuff to, like, real people. Tumblr is, as I said in my adult content, you know, conversation, Tumblr is kind of like my trash can, but I'm also finding it's a place where I can just get stuff off my chest without bothering the people that I know in real life. It's an interesting way that you have these two different things. So one is my social life, and one is turning out to be more self-expression. But another thing that I haven't seen so far, like, I've done a quick search of what people think, and one thing that no one has really pointed out is that on Facebook, you have to give them your real name. You can occasionally get away with a bit of a dodgy name, but if they find you, they're going to ask you for ID and get you to verify that, and if your Photoshop skills are shit, good luck getting a weird name. Whereas on Tumblr, if you want to be, you can be completely anonymous. That's why Tumblr doesn't really need too much in the way of privacy controls, because if you want to, no one has to know who the fuck you are. Because you can just choose whatever username. I've chosen a username that makes me identifiable, Destroy Americo. That's just become part of me on the internet. I have used different usernames in the past, but that's the one that's stuck probably because it's almost never taken. I actually don't think I've ever logged into a website and found it taken, but I don't know, one of these days someone could try and pose as me, so it's a possibility that it will get taken. But anyway, I've chosen a username that identifies me, but you can also have, what do they call them, like side blogs, so you can use a different name, so you can do other stuff that you don't want people to know about. And you can create a whole bunch of different identities for yourself on that platform. They don't have this obsession with knowing your real name and all that kind of crap. So if you want to be anonymous and express stuff that you are, maybe stuff that's weird about you, like if I had Tumblr 10 years ago, or, you know, when I was younger even, I could have used that to express all the crazy stuff that I was worried about myself. Like I had, you know, even some of you remember the Destroyer thing, why my channel even has that name. The anxieties I had about that, I could have put into a Tumblr without the real people in my life going, gee, you're really crazy. Because I was kind of sensitive about that to some extent. I still am. It's probably why I haven't addressed the topic yet. But yeah, like, I guess, people who are furries, right? Okay, so not many people know what furries are, and you can have that community on Tumblr much more easily than you can on Facebook. Like, you can have your furry name, you could have all your, like, avatars, you can share all that kind of stuff that other people would find weird and inappropriate. And then on Facebook, you can have your real person life. Like, you can compartmentalize the different aspects of yourself on these two platforms. And part of that is the anonymity of Tumblr, which is very classic internet. If you think like 10, 15 years ago, anonymity was a big thing. Facebook was kind of weird to come along and be like, no, we want your real name or else. You know, like on something like LinkedIn, your identity, like actual identity, makes a lot of sense because it's meant to be like a sort of resume network. Facebook, it was a little bit weird knowing that they decided that, but hey, they've decided that's how they're going to run it. And so the culture of these two websites is actually really different. And I think that's kind of what Tumblr has in that sense. Yeah, and then, okay, so let's just, we're starting to get really long because I rambled about too many things. But let's just quickly go over what some of these websites say. So this one is smallbusiness.cron.com, and it's discussing what's better, Tumblr or Facebook. It's basically saying, you know, it depends on what you want, which is what I think. Like, these different websites have different purposes, different cultures within them. So, you know, basic similarities. They both let you make posts, and you can have text, images, hyperlinks. I will say, though, when it comes to posting YouTube on these platforms, I don't like how Facebook has done it. Facebook wants its own videos to be a thing. So they want you to upload directly to Facebook to make it play properly. Whereas in a long time ago, you could post a YouTube video on it and it would play as if it was properly embedded. But no, now it comes up as this tiny little picture with the text, and it's only in the comments that you can embed it more properly. And I'm just like, Facebook, you just had to, I don't know, I don't like the way they've nerfed YouTube videos within Facebook. Whereas you embed it on Tumblr, and it's there. They don't try and nerf it, you know? I think they would prefer you upload to YouTube so it doesn't take up any of their storage space kind of thing, because videos can be quite big. So that's one thing I really prefer about Tumblr, is sharing videos is just nicer. But yeah, anyway, so you can do both on both accounts. They both have a sort of a news feed, although controlling what you see in Facebook's news feed, if you want to hide something, you can just hide it, you can unfollow it, you can make sure Facebook doesn't show it to you again, whereas I find Tumblr's newsfeed equivalent just goes way too fast, and then if you don't follow anything, it shows you all this crap, so I don't use it, I don't like it for discovering stuff that way. But if you have a strong interest in something, you can follow a whole bunch of blogs. Like, if you are a furry, you can follow a whole bunch of furry topics, and that'll just fill up your feed, and it seems to be pretty efficient at that, because another difference between Facebook and Tumblr is, like, I post a lot on Facebook, but most of my friends don't. So I only see stuff from them occasionally, and then the rest is advertising. Whereas on Tumblr, some people have it set up so that their blogs post every hour, and they just find a whole bunch of stuff, queue it up. Queuing things up on Tumblr is a lot easier than it is on Facebook. On Facebook, on your private profile, I don't think you can schedule anything, whereas like you can only do it on your business page. It's not a fucking business. But Tumblr, you can, like, just on your regular blog, you can schedule things to go every hour if that's what you want. Like, wow, okay. Anyway, so Tumblr, some of the ways that things are shared on Tumblr are a little bit easier. The reblog function is interesting. On Facebook, you can share and you can add your comment, but if you want to share something that someone else has shared and added their comment disappears because Facebook acts as if you're sharing the original, whereas Tumblr allows additional things to be added to each. Like, you know, someone adds a comment, you can share it with that comment and add your own comment, and then someone else can share it with all the comments, and you can turn it into this long kind of discussion thing. You don't have to have the entire conversation. So on Facebook, like, there are gazillion comments. You can't really share a specific comment, and it gets a little bit out of hand at a certain point when there are too many comments, whereas with Tumblr, you can at least go back to the one that you actually want to share and just reblog from that if you really want to, which I have done. So the reblog function is interesting. The reblog function also seems to be better for making things a little bit more viral, but I could be wrong about that, because things on Facebook can get shared a lot and go viral, but Tumblr's method of doing it is really interesting and different, and it actually, you know, it appears in people's archives when you reblog and so on. Facebook doesn't really have archives. I'm sort of going off the topic of what the article was saying, but yeah. Yeah, actually, archives is a thing that Tumblr does well. It's a lot harder to see past stuff on Facebook just in a big scroll. But anyway, let's get back to the article. So they're basically similar services, but there are a lot of differences. One of the things, oh my god, so appearance customizability. Facebook is so sterile. So sterile. You have to have your thing look exactly the same as everyone else's. The only things you can change are your profile picture, which I have not changed since I signed up more than 10 years ago, and your cover photo. Those are the only things you can change. You can like decide how many websites and things you want to show down the side, but they don't give you many options. It's really boring, whereas Tumblr is a little bit like old school MySpace in the sense that you can change your personal blog page to look almost however the fuck you want. Most people make terrible design choices so that you can barely read anything that's posted on their blog. Thank goodness for the, like, you know, when you're in your regular newsfeed thing, if you look at it from there, then it comes up in a sort of generic clean thing. But if you go to their actual blog, a lot of people go a little bit overboard with the customization, which happened on MySpace too. But if you value self-expression, that's really cool. And it makes me think of old school YouTube versus now YouTube. Do you guys remember way back when you could actually customize your YouTube? Like, I could have a black background with purple text and red boxes and whatever the hell. I have got a terrible printout of it there, although it came up with white around everything. But that is, you know, from like 10 years ago, maybe. I don't even remember. Possibly like my first 9 or 10 videos, that's a printout of. You could adjust your YouTube to suit your personality, but then at some point they decided, no, we're going to become more corporate. We're going to make everything this same boring, white, sanitized template, and now all our channels look pretty much the same. It's basically like Facebook now. You can change your profile picture and your banner and not a whole lot else. I don't know if they've made concessions for some of the larger channels because I can't be bothered to check. And I think they were trying to change things. Oh, maybe that was just dark mode though. I don't know, but YouTube has become boring. YouTube today is like Facebook in terms of design, whereas YouTube, way back when, is like what Tumblr is. You have customization. So that is a big difference. Interactivity, blah, 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 blah. So this article is saying that interactivity is better on Facebook. because you can have, you know, longer conversations about things, which kind of is true. If you comment on someone's post on Tumblr, it's a little bit difficult to have discussions in the comments, and then having discussions via reblogs kind of just makes things a little bit messy. So there is that. If you're going to have a more complicated conversation, it might be easier on Facebook, at least publicly. Like on Tumblr, I'm sure you can do that all privately through messaging, but if you want it to be a public conversation, it's a little bit more difficult in that sense. But maybe you don't want that shit on Tumblr. It depends on what purpose you have. Tumblr seems to be more about sharing ideas rather than having full-on discussions, but discussions still happen there. It's just in a different way. Visibility. So Tumblr tends to be more public than Facebook. That's true. As I mentioned, you know, I tend to use it for social stuff, like in my immediate circles or in those extended music circles that might be useful to what I do as an artist. Whereas on Tumblr, I'm just posting stuff publicly. I'm just throwing it out there, throwing it out onto the internet to see what sticks. But Tumblr has better support for tagging posts. I know Facebook brought in tags, but does anyone really use them? I don't know, but I feel like on Tumblr it makes more sense. They even have an actual tag box where you put in all your tags and you can sort of see which tags are popular as they come up. Whereas Facebook, like, you can put tags in, but I don't know, I think that was a little bit lame. They don't have, like, a dedicated support for tags. Yeah. So, Tumblr, in a sense, they reckon because of that it's easier to search. I'm not 100% sure how true that is because I haven't done a whole lot of searching on Tumblr. I did try, but I didn't find a whole lot of stuff that I was into because I'm weird and I also don't have a whole lot of strong interests these days. But anyway. So yeah, for the most part, in terms of defaults, Facebook tends to default to friends-only posting, and Tumblr tends to default to public posting. Both have options to change things around, but just from the defaults, you can get a gist of the culture. So the culture of Facebook is more like real life and personal, whereas Tumblr tends to be whatever the fuck you want in public. That's a big cultural difference. And their next point is connections with offline life. So, you know, Facebook is good for organizing offline events, so your event pages for concerts, readings, meetings, important occasions. You can see who's been invited and who's attending, and each event has its own particular page dedicated to it where you can have conversations about it, whereas Tumblr doesn't really have that sort of a facility. It's not really for the real world kind of stuff. Integration. Oh, their final point is that even if you post something on Tumblr, you can still share it to Facebook, maybe add a comment to it and direct people to Tumblr to have a conversation. You can have a conversation on both, so they can work together quite well. Depends on what you want to use it for. I think maybe I have linked to my Tumblr in the past if I've written something, but I haven't really used it that much because I don't want too many people on Facebook to realize I have a Tumblr and start coming over. I think Tumblr is a bit like with YouTube, okay? So things I say on YouTube, I feel a little bit more free in some ways because I know a lot of my Facebook friends could not be bothered to watch me ramble for half an hour as I'm doing now. It's some of, like, I don't know, there are people who like watching some of the things I do, but I know a lot of people have unfollowed me, and partly it's because I post a lot, and I also go on, like, 2,000 word rambles, you know, on a fairly regular basis, especially when I was depressed, but I'm still doing it. I still go on these long rambles. Like, I told the story of my bird incident yesterday, and I have posted in the previous video, I have posted in the comments the rant that I did. That was almost 1,000 words, and that's kind of short for when I go on one of those long spiels. So most of the people in Facebook, they don't want to watch me on YouTube because I do go on forever. Once I get started up, it just and I'm a bit of a weirdo and all that, and so I kind of sometimes feel more comfortable on YouTube talking because I know it's not generally real people watching me. I have told a few people who want to watch me, like, don't tell me that you watch, because if you tell me that, I'm going to get insecure. So on YouTube, I feel like I'm talking to people I don't necessarily know, and that just makes it easier. I do get awkward about real people knowing that I am talking. But yeah, so YouTube I feel more free, and same thing with Tumblr. Actually, I'm starting to find that I feel more free on like just to express things that might cause trouble for me on Facebook. Of course, some of those people, if they find out some of the things that I've said or some of the views that I have, they might be a bit judgmental of me and once they discover that. But, you know, I'll deal with that when it comes, and most of these people aren't like close friends anyway, so it's not a huge deal. It's just like psychologically, I find it a lot easier on YouTube and Tumblr to say what I want and be more expressive. YouTube has taken me a bit more time. I think it's easier on Tumblr because I'm not showing my face. You know, like, it's still obvious that it's me, but I don't have to show my face, I don't have to talk about it, I don't have to think too much. Oh, I'm just going to quickly pause so we don't get that problem where my half-hour video jumps. Hang on. Okay. Yeah, I find it easier to type and get my thoughts out. So I think Tumblr, it's been easier for me to open up faster. YouTube, it's been taking me a while, so I've been video blogging seriously again for a bit over a year, and I'm only just starting to get a little bit more risky with, like, ooh, talking about the TERF and extremist trans thing, which would get me shit on Facebook. Oh my god, Facebook groups like the asexual group is where I had trouble with. I'll talk about that another time, but, you know, toxic stuff does happen on Facebook, and it's connected to your identity and all that, and there are things that I feel like I can't say on Facebook because so many people know me and I don't need them causing trouble in my life, whereas for them to actually come to my YouTube and sit through a 30 to 40 minute video or go on my Tumblr and sort through all the garbage that I've posted there, it's too much effort for them, they're not going to bother. Anyway, so you can do both, you can share between both. At the moment I haven't bothered sharing between the two because I don't want too much cross traffic. Even when I share YouTube videos on Facebook, sometimes I'm a little bit wary if it's on my personal page. If it's on my public page, I know Facebook's not going to promote it too much, so not many people are going to see it anyway. But yeah, that's just something that I think about, is I kind of like having these little separate pockets of the internet. My YouTube audience is very different to my Facebook audience, and yeah, apparently my Tumblr audience is getting a little bit interesting, because if any of these conservative right-wing Republicans are paying attention to me, that's interesting, and I sort of wonder if I could exploit it somehow, and, you know, maybe I should cultivate a bit of a right-wing conservative following, and then when they least expect it, I'll shove my abortion views on them, and they'll be like, what happened? And that could be kind of fun and echo chamber breaking, but I'll think about that another time. Anyway, so let's go on to this other one. I don't even know how to, what is this, DeirdreBrickenridge.com, Tumblr versus Facebook, ask a teen if you want to know the difference. I don't even know if I pronounced that right. But so they asked teenagers, you know, which one they prefer, and I think I'm eating a bit of my own hair. Go away. Okay, so, yes, apparently today, teenagers and young people are turning away from Facebook. And one of the problems with that is actually Facebook is where your parents are now. I invited my parents, they can see what I'm doing when I've been to Japan, and then just like know what I'm doing in my life. I don't care if my parents know, I'm fine with them. My relationship with my parents is pretty okay, probably better than most people, and like, of course, as you get older, you start seeing your parents more in like a friends kind of way, instead of like a authority and subordinate kind of way, like hierarchy, if that makes sense. Like, you're more equals as you get older, in a sense. So I don't mind having my parents on Facebook. In some ways it's good, because then I don't have to talk to them about every little thing that comes in my head. They can just choose to read it or not and know what's going on. And when I was depressed, that was really good, because I could just say, like, in the middle, at midnight, I could have a thought and be like, I feel like this, blah, 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 blah. And then in the morning they could read it, and I wouldn't have to go through talking about depression. Sometimes when you're depressed and talking about the things that bother you is quite traumatic sometimes, so writing is easier, and then, yeah, they would know what was going on with me, and that really helped with our relationship, I think. Anyway, so I don't mind having my parents on Facebook, But if you're a younger kid, and I know, like, when I was younger and probably not sure about some of the things inside of my head, I probably didn't want my parents to know all that stuff. So when you're younger, you want a bit more distance between yourself and your parents. And also, just like your parents being on Facebook means it's no longer cool. And of course, my generation is having kids, and so my generation is on Facebook, and the kids are like, yeah, does Tumblr have an age limit? I don't know, but I know on Facebook you have to be at least 13, although you can always fake that. Like when I got my Neopets account, I pretended I was 18 so I wouldn't have any restrictions on my account. Like, how the fuck do they know? But yeah, Tumblr to me seems like it's got a lot of more younger people on it. And I think, especially today as time goes on, Facebook is being seen more as a sort of grown-ups network, whereas Tumblr is more of the kids' playground, if that makes sense. Which is probably why a lot of ridiculous stuff breeds on Tumblr, but yeah. And you know, this is part of the reason why I think the adult content ban is probably sensible for Tumblr as a business decision, because if your demographic tends to be younger people, then exposing them to all that porn and stuff maybe is not the most responsible thing. If Tumblr was an 18 plus network, sure, whatever, have whatever you want on it, but if you've got kids on there, it becomes problematic. I suppose Tumblr could make an 18 plus secondary product if it, like, you know, if that was something they wanted to do, but they've so far decided not to. A bit like the safe content filters, I think even if you tried to make an 18 plus thing, you'd still have a bit of issues about crossover and people posting things where they shouldn't. Because of course, if you're a troll and there's an 18 plus version, you're not going to post there. You're going to post it in the regular version just to be a dick, because that's what trolls like doing. They like being a dick. Anyway, let's get to what the teenagers are thinking. So, yeah, 16 and 17-year-olds, this is, well, this is from 2011, so it's a little bit out of date, but I think it still probably holds. They say, what's the difference between Tumblr and Facebook? Tumblr's a blog, okay, and Facebook isn't. Facebook lets you post sort of blog-like, but it's not a blog. Facebook is mainly a place to connect with friends, whereas Tumblr is like, you can write your own stuff, you can be very narcissistic, I guess. I guess both are kind of narcissistic, but do you get the sense, like, blog, you even have a page that looks kind of like a blog if you want to, whereas Facebook, you have generic template to post things into, and it's more about socializing than it is about expressing yourself. It's just the way they've set things up, they make it a little bit harder to express yourself compared to Tumblr, I think, anyway. And that's what these kids seem to think as well. So Tumblr isn't really for connecting with people in the same way. You can have online connections, but it's not about the people you know. Which one do they use more? Tumblr, because it's better than Facebook, they reckon. There you go. What? They don't care what people think about what they say. It's easier to update your status on Facebook, but they don't care enough to do that all of the time. Okay, I don't know. The kids can't be bothered to use Facebook, they reckon. Yeah, some of that was a bit confusing. They don't want to give up Facebook, though, because it's an easy way to find something out, I guess, about what's going on, and they say they do homework through Facebook. Facebook groups for academic stuff are kind of useful because you can stay in touch with your classmates. I know there's a lot of other platforms, and I've used some, but sometimes they're a little bit annoying. Like, in my course I just did, I had to work in a group, and 2 of the people in our group were Chinese, so they didn't have Facebook because, of course, a lot of these Western networks are censored in China. So we used, I think, Team Up, and it's just such a pain. It's good that you can share documents on it, but I was just like, don't like this, and so I haven't used it since, because it's just for, like, just the team. But other groups I've used Facebook for academic groups, and it works quite well because you can still share files in that and whatever. I just found it a lot easier because I guess because I'm on Facebook more, and you don't have to go to this extra platform. But oh my god, was that another tangent? Whoops. Anyway, so yeah, so they're saying Facebook has a connection purpose, Tumblr is about me. On Tumblr they can relate to others more than on Facebook, possibly because people are being more honest and open, and you can also find people with weirder interests more easily. when you talk to people you don't know on Tumblr, they say it's awesome, but if you talk to people you don't know on Facebook, it gets a little bit creepy. If some random follows you on Tumblr, that's normal. If some random follows you on Facebook, you start getting a bit like, who the fuck are you? You know when you get those friend requests from people you don't know and you're just like, yeah, no. But if you get someone following you on Tumblr, like, it could even be a porn blog, you just gotta sort of ignore it. You don't have to do anything. They're just there. Whatever. It's not as big a deal as if, like, some creep tries to stalk you on Facebook. It's very different. Blah, 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 blah. So they reckon you can tell more about a person on Tumblr because that's about the individual. So you can learn more about a person, they reckon, whereas Facebook is more about connecting with people. I'm a bit unusual on Facebook in the sense that I do express a lot of myself on it, but most people don't. They just use it to connect. What do they like most about Tumblr? Give some inspiration, because there's all that stuff going through. You can get right into these little interest holes a lot more easier than with pages on Facebook. Like, if you have an interest you want to follow on Facebook, good luck, because they're not going to show it to you half the time unless the page pays for it. It's really annoying. There's so much stuff I miss just because Facebook refuses to show it to me. So, you know, so far Tumblr seems to be better at that if you decide to follow stuff. I haven't found things I want to follow on it yet. And Facebook has a whole bunch of companies. Tumblr seems less corporate. Blah, blah, blah. They find out things through Tumblr, but I think that's just them being, kids and not looking at the news. What do they like about Facebook? Blah, blah. Writing funny things on walls, looking at friends' photos and videos. Oh, seeing when people are in a relationship is why people are on Facebook. Yeah, that's, sure. I tried to marry my guitar once. That confused people, though, because it just said I was married, but it wouldn't let me say to my guitar, so people are just like, you're married to who? And I'm like, I was just trying to marry my guitar. Anyway, Facebook's hide functionality, yeah, that's pretty good. Privacy settings on Facebook are good. That's another thing, is if you post something on Facebook, you don't know who's unfollowed you. On Tumblr, it's pretty clear who's following you. On Facebook, it's really not. And then there's some crap about what's missing from each network. They don't think there's anything missing from each network. They're different things that they provide. Would they jump ship? They wouldn't leave Tumblr, but they might leave Facebook. Interesting. I think it's hard to leave Facebook. Do you remember when Google Plus was a thing? I had a few people try and jump ship, but not enough moved to dethrone Facebook, and I still have a Google Plus because I think they made us all get one when they connected YouTube to it, and I don't post stuff there. I even forgot I had it for a bit because it's just like boring, nothing really happens. I think you have to be in a very particular sort of group to use that, like if you're a Google employee or, I don't know, I don't know many people who seriously use Google+. Facebook seems to be, at least for like my social circle, Facebook seems to be the place to go. Yeah, anyway, so that's just me roughly going through those two websites. I think I've covered most of the points somewhere in this extended ramble. And, shit, this is going to take me forever to upload because we're heading up to 45 minutes. So, that's just a whole bunch of thoughts on how Tumblr and Facebook are different, and, you know, I think it's good to just have competition, even if they were almost exactly the same. It's good to have competition that's actually working. Google Plus isn't really competition, because I don't know that many people are really using it, yeah. So, you need somewhere that people are actually using. Facebook has a lot of people using it. So does Tumblr, at least until, what is it, tomorrow or the next day that the adult content ban comes in. A lot of people are planning to jump ship, but I think even after people close their accounts, there's still going to be a fuckload of people on Tumblr. So Tumblr actually does act as better competition to Facebook than some of those other networks. And, you know, a lot of those other networks specialize. So Instagram is images. Snapchat is like those short little pieces of, I don't even know. I have a Snapchat, but I don't really use it because I don't know what it's for. It's kind of lame. Kind of cute if you want to make a dumb sort of like cat ears kind of thing, but otherwise, what do you use it for? I don't know. I think I use that also as a quarantine thing. So I've only got like 3 or 4 people on Snapchat, and so if I just want to talk to them, I'll post something on that. That's it. Yeah, anyway, so Paper Vampire. What does Tumblr really have that Instagram or Facebook or Flickr or whatever doesn't have, besides the not safe for work content tolerance it is getting rid of? It's got a lot of stuff. It's also just a completely different culture. There's plenty of space for Tumblr to keep existing without adult content. There are so many niches on Tumblr. It's not just about adult content. I've seen statistics that, like, about half, like, this is a few years back, but about half of people haven't even seen adult content on Tumblr, like half the users. So I think there's plenty to do on Tumblr without the adult content. There are other places you can go to adult content for, like FetLife, I mentioned before. There are specific places for that kind of thing. And then it's going to be interesting to see in the next couple of days exactly what the ban affects, because I'm quite certain they only said it affects like real life, real humans, or something, or else art that looks completely realistic and would be mistaken for being realistic. That seems to be all they're banning. If you've got cartoon furry porn, apparently that would be fine. I'm a little bit concerned that they're dropping safe mode, because I don't really want to see cartoon furry porn coming up in my thing, but whatever, that seems to be the direction they're going in. I think the one thing that's vague about the new terms is if your blog gets considered not safe for work, then nothing's going to be shown publicly. And so whether or not they now consider furry porn to, like, cartoon furry porn to be not safe for work, that's going to be interesting how they handle that, because if they're allowing this stuff on their platform, but then they still consider it not safe for work and therefore not public, that will effectively be a ban on all adult content instead of just the realistic stuff. But if they are allowing that, then there's actually still a lot of adult content going to be on Tumblr. So I think they have done a kind of bad job of clarifying exactly what they mean. Like, in this case, what would they do? We don't really know yet. I haven't seen any clarification, although I haven't really searched for it, so we'll find out. But we have gone over the 45-minute mark, and so I should do something with my Saturday. I should probably get some lunch. Yeah, that's all I've got for now. You can have a discussion in the comments. Well done for surviving through the video, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye. It seems